messages via the traditional SMS line 6933. In the hot seat, Dr. Roberto Ridolfi. He is the head of the European Union delegation in Kampala. Mr. Ambassador, you came into this country at a time when we were going to elections and then the immediate post-election period.
Yes, sir.
That was characterized by a lot of disturbances. The walked work of April and May last year, and what has continued up to this day. You have also had discussions, I understand, with the government of Uganda and some members of the opposition. What is your assessment 1 year later?
The assessment is that Uganda can take a path of economic growth, very, very solid, based on infrastructure, public investments in infrastructure, followed by private growth. But we need a bit of time. And when I say we, I mean we Ugandans. Now, that time can be only secured by social peace. That is, no having the sort of walk-to-work things. Yes, the situation is difficult. Yes, we have to hold together as Ugandans because this is a big nation that can do a lot. Now, to keep this stability in the next 2 to 3, 4 years until next elections, in fact, the democratic space must be kept open. Dialogue, an attitude to listening to the grievances, to the right concern of many people. There are many people unemployed. There are many people still poor, although Uganda has progressed a lot. And the government knows this. Opposition certainly must know. I don't have a lot of frequent contacts with the opposition leader, but certainly there was a clear idea by somebody that, in Uganda, just pursuing demonstrations on the streets day by day, week by week, would have delivered results. It has not been the case. And I want to reiterate what we said publicly last year, that whereas there is a freedom of demonstration ensured by the Constitution, the state has got the obligation to intervene to maintain law and order. So your liberty stops when it infringes on mine. And that is the work of the police. There are articles in the Constitution to do that. We also condemn excessive use of force, which sometimes was applied by police, but we also condemn the fact that demonstrators were not able to control themselves. And demonstrations, maybe starting peacefully, will end into way. And this, fortunately, even recently happened, that policeman.
I've interviewed some members of the opposition, and I say the European Union and diplomats in Kampala have been intimidated by the government in Kampala to change their views towards the opposition. What do you say to that, Chair?
You interrupted me, so I continue what I was saying, and then
Go
we
ahead.
will come to that. So in order to keep this democratic space open, only politics can do, because economic will not do it. In order for the economy of the country to make people happier, moving out of poverty and moving them with their job, as I said, that will take time. So only politics today can ensure that opening the democratic space. What do I mean by this? I mean a dialogue on the rules of the game. A lot, if you recall, was said about the electoral system and the flows in the process. We ourselves, we rated the election fair enough to determine a president of this country, and in fact the results were very, very clear on this direction. However, the problems in the process are still many. Now, it appears very recently the Uganda Human Rights Commissions came up with the same issue. If you recall, a few weeks ago, the Uganda Human Rights Commission's report 2011, they said that the perception of the Electoral Commission not being independent and therefore not being biased in a way, is a problem. And we believe that a dialogue on that between the different parties outside Parliament, in this consultative forum or in any other format that they would like, but must be domestic. We can't and we don't want to interfere. That will ensure that the dialogue will trigger better rules for next turn, so that whoever will win the elections will then be accepted by the losers. This is the very essence of democratic elections, that whoever loses accepts the result, as we have seen in Zambia recently, as we have seen in France last week, as we have seen in, well, in Greece is a little bit strange because everybody lost.
Mm.
But that is a little bit the mood. Now, coming to your second question, opposition can say whatever about diplomats and international partners, but it's not up to international partners to make the politics in Uganda. I'm very adamant on that.
But you influence
One
them.
first rule of diplomacy is not to interfere in domestic policies. And we are talking to the different parties, and I can tell you we are doing even progress on our relations with Uganda. So I'm very satisfied of our work. Our political agenda is progressing. I think the government also is doing some progress with us, passing messages. And opposition and government, they have to talk to each other. They shouldn't talk to us.
Do you see a willingness on both the government and the opposition to actually sit on a dialoguing table and agree on concrete steps towards moving to a peaceful settlement of the political question in the country?
YES. Yes, I do.
Is that based on your interactions? What are the indications? When do we see the major parties sitting together to have dialogue?
Even if we don't see them, I think they are moving little by little, and that's good news. Even not formally, informally, the process must be formal. The process must be informal but substantial. As I said, we call upon to open the dialogue, starting from the rules of the Electoral Commission appointment. This could be one, because it's taken up by the Uganda Human Rights Commission. Could be others. But start from one point, start discussing. It takes time, because modifying the rules, and of course, we have to be, by doing that, they will build confidence in each other that they can also use as a political capital on other more important issues. For example, like to use the oil money in the future. This is something that should see government and opposition agreeing, because it's something that we are doing for the children, not our generation, the next one, and deserves very big majority in parliament, over and above the number from the elections.
Let me go back to the charge against you and some of your other colleague diplomats from the opposition. On March 28th, you met President Yoweri Museveni at State House, Entebbe, and some of his comments, including accusing diplomats of recruiting spies and paying bribes, were interpreted as paying cash, and he said this is bribery, were interpreted as government trying to put direct pressure on you so that you can ease your criticism on questions of governance and democracy in the country.
You journalists, you like to build up a dome out of a brick. I think we had about 5.5 hours of solid discussion with the president, and we had at least 4 or 5 very good, extremely good political results out of that discussion. Then at the end of the meeting, the president, yes, went out with that deal. And I said to him, President, you are surprising me, because was not in the agenda, and this is not an EU issue. So I don't want to discuss this. This is not an European Union Uganda affair that I want to discuss, which is true. He said, yes, but somebody, who's somebody, is not even a member state of the European Union. He was referring to a political party in one of the member states of the political union that is doing political activities with other political parties here. Something that I am totally out, and I want to keep out, to be honest with you, from that. So the comment of the president didn't touch me at all. Certainly, it didn't scare anybody, but it didn't touch anybody because it was outside our talk. And I think the president knows very well this.
Did you think he intended to make that statement to deliver a message to you?
Maybe he wanted to deliver a message, but not to me.
Angelo, on the question of the democratic space available, the ambassador says you have to allow, both the opposition and the government have to allow that space and negotiate towards it. And yet the opposition says there was, by the way, some exchange of a little bit of tear gas just this afternoon because some of the opposition leaders decided to have their lunch downtown Kampala in a market today, and they believe that government is deliberately blocking off that space because it doesn't want to be
Cheaper
questioned.
food, I'm sure.
Yes, it is certainly, and they say they are boosting the people doing business downtown.
You know, the room for closed societies in all Charles. You know, Uganda, forget about work for the rest of Ugandan institutions like what is called. Look at the new Ugandan society. It's a very unequal society, and increasingly, you know, this will put pressure on institutions to try and arbitrate. You know, the sheer number of poor people, but also the perception that you know inequality is being driven by unfairness of Ugandan institutions. So there'll be a correction regardless of who intervenes. And political institutions of the day cannot create a bulwark against the requirement that you know for this society to remain safe, it will have to be much more open, and it has to be fair. And these are just teething problems, Charles. You know, I look down the road, I see a much more robust environment here. I agree with the ambassador entirely that the elite settlement has to guarantee some kind of stability. But of course, you disagree with my argument that you know it's not politics as usual that will keep the country safe, but you know these various groups contending for power, who are really a collection of largely selfish individuals, you know, can talk to each other and guarantee stability before they burn the house down.
Mm. It's just a question of whether Ugandans allow them to ban that house or whether they should decide to stay aloof from that discussion. I
If you
think
look around
Ugandans should be
if you look around the
should be
continent,
involved in the discussion.
if you look around the continent, Charles, you know, states are burning. You know, people states that we never thought we actually thought were safer are going down the tubes. So it's a fragile thing, and there is a responsibility on all parties to guarantee stability long enough for us to sort ourselves out.
Let's take a commercial break, and when we return, we'll continue with this discussion, and of course, go into the areas of economic growth and governance that the European Union is engaged in. We'll be right back.
It's live, it's hot, provocative, and digs deep into the issues.